Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another IEEE-USA webinar. You have your first job. Now, how to start your career. I'm your host, Jonathan Cho. Our presenter for today is the Associate Director for the University Career Services at the University of Houston, Priyanka Raut. Priyanka has 15 years of career counseling experience in higher education. As the Associate Director, she manages a team of 6 career development specialists. She led the initiative to start University Career Services operations at the University of Houston's instructional sites at Sugarland and Katy. With her deep knowledge of the career counseling and coaching processes, coupled with 15 years of experience, Priyanka assists students and alumni by reviewing resumes, discussing internship and job search strategies, conducting mock interviews, guiding the graduate school application process, and resolving any other career-related questions or concerns. Priyanka has served in leadership positions at the National Career Development Association's International Student Committee and within the Assessment Committee for Division of Student Affairs at the University of Houston, for which she received an outstanding committee contribution towards the DSAES. Without further ado, I will now pass it off to our presenter. Welcome, Priyanka. We're very excited for what you have in store for our audience today.
Thank you, Jonathan. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this webinar. Now that I have my first job, how do I start my career? So I would like to jump right into some of the exciting topics that we're going to talk about today. We all are work really hard to get that first job, and then once we kind of get into that job, that process of networking, growing, suddenly seems to come to like a standstill because we're trying to adapt to the new job and learn the skills on that job. However, it is very important that you become very intentional about creating this space and time for yourself where you're thinking about what does that next step look like for me. And so through today's webinar, I'm hoping that you take the time to really think about that next step for you and utilize some of the strategies that we will be discussing today to help you grow in your career. So here is the agenda. We'll begin with a little introduction and then move into understanding career growth and what that really looks like. Then we will talk about building skills and knowledge that is needed for you to follow that path. The importance of visibility and personal branding, so being where the recruiters are and helping people see who you are and what you bring to the table. The importance of networking and relationship building, a very scarcely used strategy for career growth. Setting goals and taking initiative, because without being intentional and without taking that initiative, any growth or change is difficult to happen. And then finally, looking at some of the challenges that you may face along the way and how to overcome them. And then we'll conclude with some takeaways for you from this presentation. I would love for you to continue engaging with us through chat during the presentation. We will have time at the end for question and answers, and that's when I will be happy to look through those comments and answer any questions you may have as we progress through the presentation. Okay, so the importance of career growth. When we think of career growth, we always think of like upward mobility, climbing up the corporate ladder. However, career growth is much more beyond that, and it's a holistic journey. It includes various aspects of your life. I always tell my team that you cannot be something different in your workplace and then something different at home. You bring your whole authentic self to work. And so it's important that when you are thinking of your career growth, you're not just looking at your your personal fulfillment or the financial stability, but you're also looking at what impact is your work causing. Whenever we see the impact of our work, that makes us happy. So what is the impact that it's causing? How am I contributing to the society, and how am I leaving a legacy behind me? So when you start thinking about these things, it's going to start triggering those thoughts about what can I do more than what I'm doing right now. So your career path, or when you want to grow in your career, you truly have to embrace it. You truly have to embrace the process and be very actively engaged in it. So the way you can do this is, by many different strategies, which we will look through during the presentation. One of the ways you can be engaged and active in your career growth is through this theory called planned happenstance. So the planned happenstance theory was proposed by the late Professor John Crumbolts from the University of Stanford. And what Professor Crumbolts suggested is that we have to be very open to the ups and downs that happen in our career path. So we may look at failures as negative things, but just being open to what you can learn from that failure and how you can take that to the next step and grow your skill set in that area that you learn from. So being open to opportunities and the unexpected. We live in a world where, we're always trying to plan things ahead, but sometimes it's okay to be open to unexpected situations that happen and adapt to them. So say, for example, you are doing your daily job, and you hear about this event that is happening at your company. It can be like a guest lecture, or it might be a networking event. And you're really tired, you really don't feel like talking with anyone. But with the planned happenstance, what my advice would be is to still, try and maybe say, okay, you know what, I'm just going to go there for the first 30 minutes and try to speak with one person, and then that's it for me. With that small goal or that small baby step, you enter into this event, and you're all set. You're trying to find that one person you want to talk to, but things may lead to something. There might be more conversations that you have. There might be more things that you may learn along the way. And so just being open to one opportunity may have helped you explore other opportunities or learning through that event. So you can read up more about planned happenstance, but I really want you to kind of get your mindset in that place where you can plan for things, but then, be open to those unexpected situations or scenarios that may come along your way. Okay. So now that you're open to receiving these opportunities, this information, how does growth look like for you? Of course, growth is progression. So anything that you're doing today, growth would look like something more or something more advanced to that, right? And growth can happen in many different ways. It can be vertical, it can be lateral, or it can be a combination of all of these. What is important though here is to make sure that this growth aligns with who you really are, with your personal values. So for example, let's say living on the coast is very important to you. And that affects that maybe helps you feel mentally very active and alert, or the weather. That's a value for you. So when you are looking for growth opportunities, you want to make sure that, yeah, being healthy mentally is important to me. So I want to look for opportunities that are on the East or the West Coast. And this is just one example, but, even thinking about what interests you, because If you pick something that aligns with your interests, you're going to have a more fulfilling career journey. Okay. You're not going to always struggle to fit in because it's going to be a natural fit with who you are. So let's say, for example, you are in this entry level position. There are many different ways you can think about your growth, your career growth. One could be thinking of being like a project engineer, which can be a mid level position where maybe you're helping your team. You're not a team member who's contributing to a part of the project, but you're actually helping your team plan the project, execute it. If any challenges come along the way, help troubleshoot and monitor the progress. So if that's something you enjoy doing, and if that's something you really want to try, think about looking at opportunities around you within your company where you will get an opportunity, and it can be something very small. It could be leading a group of new professionals and helping them learn about resources in the company. Now, this may not be a technical project, but it's helping you understand what that project management or that project um, engineering position could look like, where you're working with a team. If you like that experience and you want to take it to the next level, then you want to start thinking about doing a certification in project management, the professional certification. So that is one example. You can, let's say you don't want to be in a managerial role, but you want to be an expert in a specific area. So if you have explored, if you have had an opportunity so far to focus in different areas, maybe pick one area that you think you want to be an expert in. Start doing more research about that area. Start taking the initiative to seek more assignments where you will get more exposure to that area. And from there, you can think about maybe being a consultant, because now you have a niche area that you are an expert in, that you have seen, from like the bottom all the way growing. And you're aware of the challenges that may come along the way. And you can coach people on how to finish that project. So this is more of like a consultant role. You may have also, another example that I would like to bring up would be a research and development engineer. So you have realized that, oh, all the work that we're doing, I wish I could do something more about it, or I wish I could research more into this. So think of ways you can start expanding your collaboration. So if you're working with a small team now, maybe ask your manager, hey, do we collaborate with the academia? So I know a lot of universities are collaborating with industries to do work on projects. So finding a project where you can either collaborate with academia or with, partners or working on cutting edge technology. So you have to be very intentional about seeking these opportunities. And then from there, kind of, think about developing and building your research and innovation skills, and positioning yourself to work in the research and development side of your work. So these are just some examples of how you can find opportunities in your day-to-day job to really just first explore what is out there, what do I like, and what area do I want to continue to build. So this exploration, and you may not hear this all the time, but it is very important that it aligns with who you are. Um, Personally, having found a job that really aligns with my values, my interests, my personality, I can say that I've been so happy. Every single day of my job, I'm waiting to come to work. I'm waiting to share my knowledge with students and see them grow through that process. And that makes me happy. Whenever I go back home, I'm not tired. I'm not, I'm still energized because whatever I have been doing for the whole day has been fun for me, has been exciting. So try to find what that looks like for you through this exploration process. And you know, once you do figure that out, then we move into the next step, which will be building skills and knowledge in that field, because now you have identified what you want to do. But continuous learning is very, very important, because in today's world, it is a necessity. I wouldn't even say it's a privilege, but I would say it's a necessity for you to adapt yourself to the rapidly evolving and constantly changing workplace, right? So, what you may have learned in school, by the time you graduate and you are in your first job, you may realize, oh, the technology has changed a little bit, right? So it's very important that you do that continuous learning. So that can happen through, attending webinars like this, where you're educating yourself on what that process looks like and what you need to be doing in order to follow along. The technical skills are something that you can, once you decide an area, then you know what certification you need to take or what course you need to participate in. Don't be in a rush to just go ahead and get all the certifications. It's not going to make sense if the certifications or the advanced degrees that you're going to get do not align with what you're interested in and what your long-term goals are. So don't be in a hurry to get these certifications, but really think through it. Do I want to develop my skills in maybe coding languages or software designs or even financial analysis? Like, you know, um, what is it that I want to build or gain expertise in or build my skill set in? Soft skills, and I want to give a special mention here for that, because the technical industry is where most of the focus is on, are you able to understand the technology and do the work? But when it comes to career growth and you growing through the different layers of the positions, what's going to differentiate a successful candidate is going to be these soft skills. You may be excellent at solving a problem, but how confident are you about being able to lead a team through that problem solving process? How confident are you about being able to communicate clearly through your emails about the process that you're thinking about and what's your plan of action? How confident do you feel that your team will support you along this process? So these are your soft skills, and they come into action, especially when you start trying to move up the career ladder or try to grow in your career. For example, we talked earlier about being open to opportunities, being flexible and adaptable. That is a soft skill. And you are going to demonstrate that, or that's going to be very helpful for you when an opportunity is presented to you. And instead of saying, oh, I have too much to do, I don't have time for that, you actually sit down with your manager and say, I really want to do this. But right now, I'm currently working on a very important project, which will take about this much time. How do we work around my current assignment to make sure that I also get to work on this other project? So, communication, strategizing, being open, these are skills that you actually need to demonstrate through your everyday actions. Certifications and courses, we already talked about that. Anything that will help you upgrade your skill set. I always tell students that I work with here, it's a good practice to just kind of look at what jobs are out there and see what the requirements are. Because when you look at the requirements, you very soon realize, oh, maybe this is a certificate or maybe this is a course that I need to take because I don't know much about this particular area. So always be actively engaged and trying to see what that next step looks like for you. So a very important part of once you have your skills and your knowledge, it is important to demonstrate that to your stakeholders. So those can be, your colleagues, your supervisors, other jobs that you may be trying to go into. And so sharing your personal success does take time and, again, an investment from your end. You may be doing amazing things at work. You may even receive emails from your manager saying, "Oh, great job. You did it in such a small time. Awesome." It's just two sentences. But what I would suggest is create a folder in your inbox. You can call it, like, I have a folder which says kudos folder, right? So put all those emails in that folder. You want to make sure that you're looking at those to encourage, to motivate yourself. um, you may also request your supervisor to maybe write a small recommendation for you on LinkedIn, because that goes a long way. So in your daily work, pause for a moment to really appreciate yourself and the work that you're putting in, because growth will not happen if you're constantly just looking at, what am I doing wrong, what is happening to me. Growth will happen when you feel motivated, when you feel appreciated. And not all the time that will come from outside. It has to come from you. So if you are appreciative about yourself, you can share your successes. You can create portfolios showcasing your projects. Now, some people may think, oh, a portfolio is created only, let's say, by artists or people in digital media. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know how that changed. So you want to make sure that you have a portfolio. So I want to walk you through like a quick example of what your portfolio could look like. So say, for example, you are working on this project, and so you think this project is like a cutting edge project, or you think it's uh, help you expand your skill set. So maybe create a section where you're highlighting like selected projects, right? Talk about, mention what that project is about. The key here is to not describe the project. This is where a lot of people get lost. And I see that when students or professionals are talking about their projects, they forget to talk about the contribution they have made. So it's important you focus on what you did in that project, what was the role you played, what was the contribution you did. And it doesn't have to be something really superstar or a big contribution. It can be something basic, which was a requirement of, which was an expectation from that project, but that was your contribution, so you need to talk about it. So talking about your projects, maybe the challenge that you faced while completing it and what solution you came up with, highlighting the result and the impact of it. You could also use a visual. So if you have like a product that you worked on, or a website that was created out of your work, have a visual of that. So it shows, what you have accomplished. Sometimes if you are responsible, let's say, for writing reports, so maybe writing a technical or an engineering report, talk about your design calculations. Talk about some of the models that you may have used to write this paper or to come up with this report. You may also use, again, pictures or visuals over here. Some other things you could include in your portfolio along with your projects or engineering reports could be your certifications, the ones that you will be working on to maybe get expertise in that area. If you have been to conferences or if you have done presentations for your company on topics, don't think that any topic is, it's not that a big deal. Any presentation that you did where you stood up in front of 20 or 50 people and you did a presentation, include that as part of your portfolio, because that doesn't only demonstrate your technical skills, but it also shows your communication skills, your ability to analyze and present information. You may also include awards or recognitions as part of your portfolio. You may include some of the technical skills as well as your contact information. So personal branding or visibility does not always include LinkedIn, but it can also be a virtual portfolio. If you want to know more about, and obviously updating your LinkedIn profile is important, ensuring that your skills that you're listing are the skills that are relevant to the next career opportunity that you're seeking or the growth you're seeking. There is a saying that dress not for the job that you have, but dress for the job that you want. So, which means that try to create a profile which is future, which is forward facing, which shows that these are the skills that you are currently working on to build up, right? Um, if you are looking for more information on personal branding, IEEE Careers had a webinar on personal branding, so you can go back to the YouTube list and view that webinar, which specifically focuses on personal branding. So moving on, networking and relationship building. This, I want to say, is the least used strategy for career growth. Why? Because, we don't always want to just walk up to strangers and talk about, hey, I'm looking for this. What do you have to say? Or sometimes we're so occupied and stressed with our everyday job that this is the last thing on our plate. What comes easier is, hey, let me just look online and apply, or let me just get this certification. I really want you to spend some time networking and relationship building. And I'm going to share, some ideas that hopefully you'll be able to take with you, and maybe set a goal that I'm going to implement at least one of these ideas next week or starting tomorrow. So the first thing is, the first goal when you're networking is to build those genuine relationships. You may meet people and then you add them to your LinkedIn and then you forget about them. So if you are very intentional about why you are engaging with that person, right? Whether it's the job that they're doing or the company that they're working for or the research that they're doing, try to keep in touch with them. Maybe say, hey, can we meet, have a virtual happy hour? I would love to hear some more about the research that you're doing. When we met, we just started talking briefly about it. So this is how you're kind of growing those relationships. During holiday times, maybe just send like a quick note saying, hey, happy holidays to you. Just wanted to let you know I'm thinking about you and you have a great year ahead. Of course, if you just send this holiday message, sometimes it may freak people out, like, where did this come from? So that's why that constant engagement is important. Seeking mentors, right? Mentorship is such an important aspect for your career growth and stability. I would say for both, because having a mentor not just offers you professional it's growth, but also personal growth. Because as I said earlier, your person and profession are not separate. It's one thing. Who you are and who you present at work has to, the more consistent it is, the more easier it is for you. So if you have a mentor, you're going to get that guidance and support that you may need, because sometimes you don't know where to start. So a mentor can kind of give you their expert advice because they have been in that field for a long time. They can also obviously help you with your career development process. So, what skills do I need to get on my resume? What are some certifications you recommend I get? Mentors have lived through that industry, so they may have made mistakes. And so they will have a lot of wisdom for you to, maybe try another path, and not necessarily, what you're thinking may work. Um, Again, having a mentor gives you that diverse perspective. So you may be thinking in one linear way, but your mentor may expose you to multiple other opportunities, whether it's position titles, whether it's certifications, whether it's research, whether it's professional associations, to kind of think about, that you may not have really known. So having a mentor can many times, or has proven to be a transformative experience for a lot of new professionals, because they get that guidance. They know that there is that one person that I can rely on. IEEE has a wonderful mentorship program. If you haven't explored that, I encourage you to do that. Maybe that's the one thing that you can do after this webinar, is look into that mentorship program. So you can seek mentorship. And if you feel like you're in a place where, you know what, I would love to mentor incoming graduates because I was in their place 1 year ago or 2 years ago, maybe try from that angle where you're providing mentorship. Um, these things really give you a fulfilling experience in your career journey. And then also, finally, some other ways where you can network and build relationships would be through attending events. And so, as you can see, conferences, seminars, workshops like this, these are great ways for you to find people to go talk to them. So my challenge, I would say, for all of you who are watching here today would be to get away from your screen and actually talk to someone. Go walk up to someone that you don't know, or maybe you've been sitting next to a person and you've never talked with them. Just go introduce yourself to them. Learn about, their educational background. Learn about what they're working on. This can be a small first step towards you really starting to engage with people and network. So assuming that, now that you know what career growth looks like, you have identified your area, you have started to build your skill set, what networking looks like for you, you know the right people. It's important that you set those goals, because if you don't have a goal, then all this is not going towards anything, right? There is no end result to it. So when you're creating a goal, it's very important that you begin by taking ownership of it, which means that if I want to grow, I have to make sure that this gets done. So set a goal for yourself, like in the next 6 months, I would have completed this project management course to qualify for a promotion that's going to come up in my team, right? So this can be like a small goal. The next thing is to also make sure that you're taking the initiative by taking on something challenging. Because how do you show growth if you are not challenged, if you are not pushed in different direction? You cannot expect to grow in your career feeling very like, yes, I have control of everything, I know how to do everything. Yes, so you learned that, but what about the next step? You have to push yourself. You have to take the initiative. Try to, propose new ideas. If there is not, you don't find a lot of challenging work, maybe try to propose new ideas to your manager. Don't think that they don't have time for this. They're not going to worry. My manager's not going to look for it. The attempt first begins with you. At least try and put that idea. It may not be taken, but the 50% chance is that it may be looked at. So don't doubt yourself from the beginning. If you have an idea, if you want a challenging project, reach out and take that initiative. Setting goals, you all may or may not have heard about this. We use what we call as a SMART goal technique, where S stands for being specific, M stands for are you able to measure this goal, A stands for is this attainable, R stands for is this even relevant, and T stands for the time or the deadline by which you want to attain this goal. So um, I do want us to take like maybe just a few minutes, and I want you to either type it up or note it down, but this is where I need your active engagement. We will walk through each of these, and I'm going to give you about maybe 20 to 30 seconds to just come up with the idea. We don't have a whole lot of time here to walk through each of them, but just as a takeaway, I would like for you to have like a rough idea or an what we call as a 22,000 feet picture of what that next goal looks like for you. So you are in your current role right now. You have been in this role for some time. I want you to think, what is that next step? So be specific about what you are seeking to achieve next after this role or even within this role. It can be something, a growth step within this role. So take about 20 to 30 seconds to think about what are you seeking to achieve. Okay. Now that you've had some idea or a rough idea of what you're seeking to achieve, how will you track or how will you know that this has been achieved? What is it that, what would be the measurable or that action step that will help you know that, okay, this, I have achieved this role, this goal. So take maybe 20 to 30 seconds to think about how will you measure this goal. Okay, then we look at attainable. Is what steps will help you achieve this goal? So what are the actual action steps you need to take? Do you need to maybe first begin by talking to your manager? Do you need to look at what is being offered within your company? What are those resources that are offered for employee professional development? So what will be those action steps? So maybe come up with 2 or 3 action steps to achieve that goal. And we'll take 30 seconds to come up with those action steps. Okay, and then moving on, the relevancy. So how are these action steps and this goal connecting to your long-term goal? Or if you don't have a long-term goal, think about how are these action steps building towards what you want to do next or helping you grow and push you out of your comfort zone. So think about how this is going to, why this goal is important for you, why it, matters to you. And, once we're done through this activity, if you do feel comfortable, I invite you to share your maybe goal in the your SMART goal in the comments. If you do feel comfortable, there may be people who are attending who may be having a hard time going through this activity. So it will be a good reference for them, or it'll pop up ideas for them reading maybe about your goal. So if you feel comfortable, you can share it in the comments for others. And then finally, the last one will be the timeliness, right? What will be the time frame when I want to get this goal accomplished? So setting a deadline for you to accomplish this goal. Now, I would say be realistic with this time frame. I don't want you to think like, okay, next month, this is what I'm getting done. But have a realistic time frame. But at the same time, don't have it so far out where you're like, yeah, I'll think about it. I still have a lot of time. Have, a realistic time frame. So this is a great way, a great activity for you to really sit down and think about what you want. You can also create a vision board. So a vision board would be like pictures or letters or ideas that you want to see in your career growth or in your future career path. And you can put it up in your office or on your refrigerator where you see it every day, and it inspires you to keep working towards that goal. Okay, so goal setting and taking this initiative ownership is very, very important. Now that we kind of have this goal, let's look at some of the challenges that may come our way as we're working towards our goals. So some of the most common challenges, are fear of failure, imposter syndrome. And I really want to take a moment here to talk about the imposter syndrome. And imposter syndrome, it's a very common feeling that many of us feel. And it's a feeling of inadequacy or self-doubt, despite of evidence of our accomplishments. So, for example, I have been in this job, let's say 15 years, but sometimes I feel like, oh, I don't think I'm a good leader. I'm not a good leader. I'm not doing my job well. In spite of the fact that my team tells me, we love your leadership style, or my manager tells me, you're doing a great job, I may still have that doubt, but I don't know what it is based on, right? And that prevents me from taking that initiative. That prevents me from my own personal growth. That even prevents me from updating my resume like, hey, I haven't done anything big. But everybody else, my work, my team, my manager, everybody's telling me I'm doing a great job. That's what we call as the imposter syndrome. It's that feeling of inadequacy. So how do you overcome that? Some things you can do: first, acknowledge it. Really try to understand, where is this coming from? Why am I feeling it? I am feeling it, but I'm going to acknowledge I'm feeling it and I'm going to accept it. What am I going to do next? I'm going to challenge those negative thoughts. Where are they coming from? I have worked on 3 projects in this role, but I still feel that I'm not adequate enough. Why? So challenge those negative thoughts. Celebrate your achievements. So I already talked about that earlier. Create your kudos folder, create your own portfolio, share it with your manager, share it on LinkedIn. So you have to be very mindful about making sure that you are also showing your own self how great you are, not just the world, but your own self. Okay. And develop like some self compassion too. You may be working very hard and you may not have time to do everything that is on your to do list. Is it time for you to look at that to do list and really see that, is all of this accomplishable or even realistic for me to do in the time frame I've set myself? Sometimes you may feel lost because you're doing so many things. Then maybe it's time for you to develop a to-do list. So challenge those negative thoughts or that imposter feeling that you may get. Try to seek support. And again, we talked about this like through mentorship, um, having those real conversations with your managers. Sometimes even like visualizing your success, having that visual board on your vision board in front of you. And sometimes it may also mean that you just need to spend some time, like maybe meditating, working out more. So, yeah, when you have challenges like these, try to be more mindful, accept and acknowledge those, and then be mindful of what you're doing to help you overcome these challenges. Adaptability is very important. So being open to the changes that come your way, the knowledge, and then, even meeting the demands. And last but not the least, self-care. If you do not take care of yourself, you're going to lose that motivation and that resilience to keep going. So self-care is very important, where you are appreciating the work that you're putting in. When you graduated from college, where you were and where you are today, you have already accomplished so much. So applaud yourself for that. Give yourself credit for that. And motivate yourself, because motivation and resilience is a state of the mind. And so if you're able to have a strong mind, you will be able to push through all the challenges that come to you as you're trying to grow into that uncomfortable area, right? You're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, and keep going. And finally, here is our conclusion. So having gone through all these steps, the three takeaways that I really want you to know is that your self awareness in this process is very important. Knowing what you want, because there are million opportunities, jobs, areas of growth. But what is it that you are seeking that aligns with your interest, your values, your skills? So try to identify that. Try to keep yourself learning continuously. It doesn't always mean that you're seeking certifications. It could just mean something like you're attending all the IEEE career webinars, because that's helping you gain information. And when you gain information, it helps you with decision making. So, continuous growth, networking, and being proactive, because nobody's going to hand everything to you sitting over there. Oh, here is your growth opportunity, or here is your promotion. You have to be proactive, you have to go get it. That's number one. Number two is to set clear goals and develop necessary skills. So if you don't have a goal, you're not going to know what to work towards. So setting those goals is important. And then building a network that will help you get towards achieve those goals. Building skills that will help you achieve those goals is important. And the final takeaway, this is my favorite. Remember that career progression is not always linear. It's not like this or like this or like this. It can look like this. So as you can see in that picture, there may be times where you may have to take a U-turn, like you went ahead, but then something happened and you realized, oh, I don't know this. So I need to go back. Maybe I need to go back to my textbooks, read up on it, or I need to look at what research is being done on this, right? So it's not a linear path, but remember that resilience and staying committed to your growth is what's going to help you continue to grow. So with that, I want to thank you for listening to me today, and I hope this presentation was helpful for you. I will turn it over to Jonathan now.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Priyanka. Great presentation. So, folks, we are at the Q&A portion of the webinar. Please post your questions in the comment section, and we will load them onto the stream for Priyanka to answer. So, Priyanka, while we're waiting on our audience member questions, I do have some questions I would like to ask you. First off, I would also like to mention how you know, a lot of the things that you talked about in today's webinar are things that I actually already knew about and learned beforehand. So it actually is And I also learned quite a few new things as well. But it's also, I think, very validating to know that the things that I already knew and learned about are, actually stand true. Because
Mhm.
everyone, especially in their early careers, experience things like self-doubt, imposter syndrome, especially, stuff like that. It's not it's inevitable. And
Mhm.
glad to know that there are some universal strategies and insight
Mhm.
to be able to help prepare ones for that career landscape.
Mhm.
So my first question, and you kind of you are had already gone on this during in the beginning of the webinar, but just for the people who may have joined us later, um, how important is ongoing learning and skill development in the early stages of one's career, and what are some effective strategies for continuous growth?
Mhm. Sure. So, ongoing learning and skill development is important because if you want to grow, that's what you need to do. If you think about when you were a toddler, or if you when you were an infant, if you did not crawl, you wouldn't know how to walk. And so it's the same thing that we know that we want to grow, and you may be familiar with all of these strategies, but it's important for you to push yourself out of that comfort zone so that you can learn and grow. And effective strategies for continuous growth, I feel like I already covered them through my presentation, but really making that time and being intentional, I would say, is the key. We get lost in our day-to-day routine. We have to work, manage our work as well as family commitments. So it may be hard for us to really make that time for growth or really even think about adding more to your plate. But
Mm,
if you're not intentional about it, if you don't have a plan, you may not even think about it, and you may not take those steps towards the growth opportunity. So, yes, it is very important to have ongoing learning, and some of the strategies that I shared, which included being intentional about getting those certifications, putting together a portfolio, which includes some of the projects you've worked on, showing your accomplishments, networking, relationship building, setting goals, taking that initiative. These would be some of the strategies.
Fantastic. Thank you so
Mhm.
much. And, I have been told by many established professionals adopting something like a student mindset is always important, especially
Mhm.
if you're looking for growth, just because, with that kind of mindset, you're opening yourself up to new possibilities and knowledge that you never understood. And, you don't want to limit yourself by thinking, oh, I already know all this. I'm not a student anymore. I don't need have anything else to learn. No, I think that really limits you. So thank you so much for that
Mhm.
insight. My next question, um, and this might be a situation that a lot of people in their career have experienced. What are some key indicators that suggest it may be time to seek new opportunities or try to advance within one's current organization?
Awesome. This is great. So, one of the first things I would say is feeling bored in your job. So, when you feel like, yeah, it's the same thing every single day, and I know how to do this. If you feel like you're where, this is getting kind of boring, and you see yourself even when you're at work, you're just like, looking up, other things, looking up other jobs, even when you're in your current job, I would say that's a key indicator that maybe it's time for you to seek new opportunities. Another indicator could be that you're not happy in your job.
Mm,
um, you don't feel satisfied no matter how much you're doing. You still, don't you're still stressed out. Your manager is maybe telling you a lot of things that you need to continue doing, and you feel stressed and unhappy. That is another key indicator that maybe you should seek new opportunities for advancement. A third indicator I would say is you have your job that you were hired to do, but you always find yourself what are like you always find yourself, oh, I want to do that. Oh, can I help with this project? Oh, I want to do this. So you already find yourself motivated and wanting to do more. So that's when you can seek new opportunities and look for advancement. um, so those would be like three things that I can think of right now. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. And
Mhm.
so this isn't so much a question, but a statement that one of our audience members has sent in, Orhan. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I apologize if I'm not. So he says, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone is soft advice. I think that's what he was saying. It can cause a lot of stress, anxiety, and pressure on a person. Very good point, Orhan. Any thoughts on that, Priyanka?
Absolutely. So yes, I completely agree. It can cause a lot of stress, anxiety, and pressure. But if you think about iron, when we're um, molding an iron, it's put through a lot of heat, a lot of stress, a lot of pressure, and then it can be molded into what we want it to be, the shape. So without, I would say, pressure, without feeling that challenge, you will not be able to grow. The stress and the anxiety part is real too. And, we live in a world where every day it's not just our job. There are so many other things that can cause that stress and anxiety. So that's where my suggestion of self care comes into picture. Um, Therapy and, seeking therapy and counseling, um, which can cause great changes and help people grow in leaps and bounds and to manage that stress and anxiety, um, has been effective. So yes, all these things are real and they do exist, but I would challenge you to think about what are some support systems that you can utilize to make sure you get the support you need as you're getting that pressure. You're getting molded, and you're changing to grow as a professional.
Really great advice. Thank you,
Mhm.
Priyanka. And Orhan, I hope that I helped provide some insight. Thanks for your comment. Since we're approaching the end of the hour, we'll just probably answer a couple more questions. One from our audience member. Our audience member asks, uh, well, he starts off by saying, the new normal slash remote working, it looks for me to be a challenge to demonstrate leadership. What are your thoughts? Really great issue to bring up. Thank you.
Mhm. Yes, thank you. That's a good question. So, because we work remotely, we may feel like, we're in our own little zone here and doing our work. Um, but the ways to demonstrate leadership would go back to taking that initiative. So, identifying opportunities within your team where you can take that initiative. So, let's say, for example, you want to plan a team retreat and you can offer your support to your manager saying, hey, I would love to support you to plan this retreat. When you are in a planning process or when you're in helping implement a project, you are constantly communicating with people. You're guiding them, you're seeking their advice, you are trying to put together a structure, a plan. That gets you in front of people. So that will be your first step, where even though you're sitting in your home office, you're still engaging with all your team members because you're trying to get a plan together. So, identifying these small ways in which you can take that initiative will help you kind of start breaking into building those leadership skills.
Really great, thank you. And
Mhm.
thank you to our audience member for your question. Priyanka, I'm going to close it off with this one last question. Very curious, just because I know a lot of people early on in their career and even later, especially experiences. For for people beginning new careers as adults, how do you utilize the time you may have spent at home as a parent or caretaker as a positive when seeking work and careers?
This is my favorite question. So, I would say when you spend time take at home taking care of your child or parents, that's something you're demonstrating a value. You're demonstrating a value that family is important to you. The people in your life are important to you. So, this is something I first before we even go into telling others about it, I want you to think of it that you have done a really important and a significant job. You are actually pouring into helping someone be independent, right? You're helping someone. So be proud of the fact that you're raising a family or that you're supporting your parents. And then you can then transform that. If you are applying somewhere, you can always put that in your cover letter saying that I really valued this time raising a family or taking care of my family members. However, now I'm ready to re-enter the workforce. And along with all these skills that I already had, I do see a lot of transferable skills that I gained when I was a parent or a caretaker. For example, time management skills, right? Making sure everything gets done on time. um, Another transferable skill could be problem solving. There might be things that come up. How do you problem solve? Multitasking, trying to manage multiple tasks at the same time. So it begins with how you perceive the situation. So I want you to start thinking, I'm very proud that I raised a family, or I'm very proud that I'm taking care. And then these are the transferable skills that I will bring when I decide that I am ready to go back into the industry and be back in the workforce.
Love that. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
All right, everyone. Unfortunately, we are out of time. I know we could go on to this topic for forever. Priyanka, thank you so much for joining us today and giving your insight into understanding career growth and even giving your tips on identifying and overcoming challenges on the way to career success. Really loved having you today.
Thank you. My pleasure and honor to be here on this platform today, sharing my advice. Thank you.
And thank you to our audience for tuning in and for your great questions as well. IEEE USA webinars are designed to help you find your next job, maintain your career, and learn about other career building strategies and public policy developments that affect your professions. If you like the content presented in today's webinar, be sure to check out our other ones. Finally, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channels on social media and check back daily for future live stream updates. We'll see you again next time.
I had the coolest job that any electrical engineer could ever have on the ground crew for Solar Impulse 2, the first solar-powered airplane to fly around the world only using the power of the sun. IEEE-USA has given me a competitive edge because of their support system. It is so much easier doing something and being out of your comfort zone when you have someone there saying, you got this. IEEE-USA is more than just a network. It's a family.